wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today, but if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, Gavin.Rich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel GBoot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace.
Hi, I'm attorney Gavin and Richard. Check out my latest book, The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr., The Destruction of Due Process in America. For approximately 2 years now, I have gone on a painstaking quest to investigate the rise and fall of an American icon, Bill Cosby. In the mid-1980s, there was not a star that was higher than Cosby. Advertisements with Coca-Cola, Jello, Kodak, along with the #1 television show for 5 straight years in a row. On Thursday nights, it was must-see TV on NBC. Cosby resurrected the genre of the traditional family sitcom that was once thought dead by television critics. He did this as a Black American with an all-Black cast and showed mainstream network executives in white America that it was possible to be successful without showing the worst in people. He also demonstrated the power that television had, as it can make younger people dream to be the best that they can be. However, like many celebrity stars, unfortunately, they all come crashing down, sometimes by their own fault, others not so much. In this book, I attempted to highlight certain things. We go in depth into both of his trials in 2017 and 2018, respectively. What if I told you that these criminal trials were politically motivated by an overzealous district attorney? Will you also be shocked to learn the attacks on Mr. Cosby did not start in 2014, but also in the 90s, not long after his attempted quest to purchase a major network? From where did all of these allegations of sexual misconduct come from? Were the accusers telling the truth? In the 2 years of research, with some help from others interested in learning the truth and facts about this case, we discussed both the legal reasons why his prosecution and trial were illegal, unwarranted, and also the possible personal motives as to why this may have occurred. Most importantly, we warn about the dangers of prejudice and why trial by social media, or mainstream media rather, should never be the norm. All this and more in The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr., The Destruction of Due Process in America. Available on Amazon this fall in Kindle and paperback format.
That is The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr., The Destruction of Due Process in the United States. It is available on Amazon Kindle. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an easy way to actually just go to Amazon and purchase that book. And it is a must read, especially if you want to understand situations of what happened, the situation that not only happened to Dr. Cosby, but also what's happening to most Black male celebrities right now, from R. Kelly to DeShaun Watson. To it gives you an idea of what's going on. In fact, we actually, and speaking of which, this is where you can go on Amazon and purchase that. But also, you can also tune in now, because I'm going to have on Dr. Cosby's spokesperson. Speaking of which, Mr. Andrew Wyatt of Purpose PR Firm, and we're going to be discussing things such as the R. Kelly trial and DeShaun Watson and tying it in. And tying all of that in, excuse me, I had to answer a text message. So we'll get ready in a minute. Of course, we like to also pay some dues. I need everybody to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Random Topic Sundays, the hottest live stream on Sunday afternoons. We do this every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So I need you to hit that like, share, and subscribe button now. I also need you, if you would please do so, since YouTube has demonetized this channel, to donate to the Cash App, the PayPal, or Zelle, or GooglePay, whatever your taste and desire is. But please support our channel, as we are, not monetized, and it's always helpful when you all support. Another way you can support me, and shout out to my brother Derek Bailey, your order is on the way. You can actually donate. You can actually purchase some Creole seasoning blends. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nonnies goes great with every dish. So you can go and order you some Creole seasoning. It is great for any type of thing, barbecue and so forth. Now, of course, before we bring Andrew on, we always like to play our music. Got to get on up. And you can purchase those available on iTunes, Amazon, and Apple, as well as Video Soul. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get on up, make sure you all hit that like, share, and subscribe button right now and tune in. We got about 16 people, but I know we can get more people in here. I know we're going to get more people because people actually love when we do these shows. That's why I keep doing them. So we're going to go ahead and let's get started right now. It's time to get on up before we get on down.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, cause on the dance floor is where we'll be. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the... Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide or two. Hit the bus stop or do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Now, 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you breathe and you achieve. And so, if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll feel the groove. Get on the floor. Get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the floor, baby. Yeah, gotta get on the floor, baby. Come on, baby, gotta get on the floor, baby. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Gotta get on up. What's up, everybody? Thank you all for tuning in to Random Topic Sundays with me, Gavin Richard. Welcome, everyone, to Gavin Richard Presents. Of course, we have a special guest coming on. We're bringing in Andrew Wyatt of Purpose PR Firm. Now, Andrew is coming all the way from, you can correct me if I get the city wrong, but is it Birmingham, Alabama, Andrew? Oh, wait, I got to add him.
Yeah, you got it. Birmingham, Alabama. How you doing, Gavin?
Birmingham, Alabama. I'm doing fine, brother. And there's, of course, everybody knows about Birmingham because of the history of the civil rights movement. And I dare say there's a new civil rights movement that is taking place now. And the movement starts here. The movement starts at home, as Dr. Cosby has even alluded to it. You know, Andrew, as many people know, has risen to fame because he has represented Dr. Cosby as a spokesperson. And he's also done other work with other people. He's working with, has helped even with the R. Kelly situation. And he's even done so without even taking any money from R. Kelly. He's actually said this publicly. Bill Cosby's attorney, Jennifer Bongine, actually represents your R. Kelly in his second trial, which is going on in Chicago. And we're going to be talking about that today. But we're going to be tying in all of this stuff that we see today, because I just don't want to talk about R. Kelly, Andrew. I wanted to know also, what are your thoughts about DeShaun Watson situation, because it's something similar with him. And then, if I'm not mistaken, even, and this is laughable, George Foreman, the former heavyweight champion of the world, who actually was in a movie with Bill Cosby called Let's Do It Again.
Right.
I remember that.
Right. But you know, and you look at Snoop Dogg, Trey Songz, Bill Cosby, became, Gavin, the litmus test on how to destroy and take down successful Black men in America and successful Black men in entertainment in America. But now we're going to see more of this filtering off into any Black man that's successful, whether you're a businessman, whether you're a lawyer. If you're successful and you have come to fame and you have created some form of wealth for yourself, these allegations, these alleged allegations, are assassinations to destroy you, your legacy, and your attempts, if you're doing something well, to try and enhance the lives of Black people. Yeah,
most definitely. If you are, my thing, and I gave you a copy of, you and Dr. Cosby, a copy of the book. I don't know if you ever read it, but
yeah, I read the book. It's a great book, and you did a great job. And I encourage people to go purchase that book, because you nailed it. And before we knew each other, Gavin, you even filed motions, against the district attorneys and district attorney in Montgomery County, Kevin Steele, of his corruption of using politics to destroy the life and legacy of Bill Cosby, which was unjust. So it's a must read, and I would tell everybody to please get a copy of that book.
Well, thank you. That's the best endorsement I can get from Andrew Wyatt, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so get the book. But what I actually did with Mr. Steele was that I wrote a letter to the judiciary, to the Bar Association, because he was personalizing himself at the trial in closing arguments, which attorneys are not allowed to do. You can't
Right.
personalize something. You can't testify, obviously, to a witness's credibility. You can present an argument. You can make your argument based off the evidence presented. But when you start personalizing, it's a problem. Then on top of that, you know, just the whole trial was, and excuse my French, but I'll say it was a bullshit case. It should have never happened. Judge Joe Brown has been adamant about saying that. Most people I know are adamant saying that that shouldn't have happened to Dr. Cosby, but I think, and you know this as well too, those that were okaying what happened with Dr. Cosby, it was more of a personal issue. You know, he didn't like my comedy. He didn't like Def Comedy Jam. You know, he was a hypocrite. And, you know, and I always go back and say this. Okay, he didn't like your comedy, but what does that have to do with rape? How does that prove that?
Right, right. Well, you know, but those very same people, Gavin, who were vocal and thought that they were putting some protection over them, a lot of those same people, you know, sexual assaults allegations came their way. And, you know, and remember, and this is not to say anything negative, remember Robert Kelly, when the heat started coming on him, he wrote a 21-minute song saying, "I'm not Bill Cosby," you know, thinking if he said that would take the heat off of him. But when the system, and this is a system that's not manufactured by us, the Declaration wasn't manufactured by us, the Declaration of Independence. The laws were not manufactured by us. So we didn't create those. So when we began to figure things out, they have a formula to reconstruct the law, to reconstruct it to benefit whatever their purpose and their agenda might be. But we saw that with Robert Kelly, and but that still did not prevent me from trying to help. I had been trying to help him for 4 years behind the scenes, working with one of his prior counsel, Raed Shalabi. And Robert, you know, Robert's problem, and you know, we have had a number of conversations that he has called me in the past few weeks. Robert's problems are the fact that Robert cannot, in his mind, get rid of the toxicity around him. He has some of the same people. A guy who flew to New York and met with me last year with one of Robert's private eyes. They met with me. He claimed to be Robert's cousin. Well, I'm just finding out this guy's not Robert's cousin, but he's controlling Robert's money. And so they wanted an attorney. I recommended Jennifer Bungine, and I put her in touch with this guy who's supposed to be Robert's cousin, who I'm finding out now is his best friend. I just found it out 2 weeks ago. He retained Jennifer. We were in negotiations back in October, him retaining me. And, you know, I decided to not pursue that because I saw the toxicity that was around in Robert. And Robert has to be in a place, as I told him maybe a week or so ago. And he was trying to get me back to Chicago to see him, to visit with him, to get me to Chicago. And it couldn't happen because his trial was around the corner. But Robert, for some reason or another, has to come to grips with the people that he thinks are his confidants and they care about him. They're just usurping whatever they have of his, what's left, in order to make a name for themselves and enrich themselves financially. So that's Robert's problem. Should Robert be in this situation? No, he should not. When you look at the evidence and when you look at the case itself, almost 20 years ago, probably about 20 years ago, Robert was found not guilty, but that was a state case. If you remember, the FBI raided his home in Florida and they got those tapes. And then the judge eventually ruled that they did not have a search warrant. So that evidence did not come into play. If you remember the young lady who they came calling now Jane Doe 35,
Right.
she took the witness stand this week. She testified before a grand jury that was not her in that tape, and now she's been given immunity by the government because the government was going to make her into a Jocelyn Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, not Jocelyn, but Ghislaine Maxwell, who worked closely with Jeffrey Epstein. So they said, well, look, we're going to say that you were bringing young girls in for Robert if you don't come over to this side. So they gave her immunity because she lied before a grand jury. They gave her father immunity, who knew and found out, her father and mother found out that Robert had taken her virginity at 15 years old, but they allowed this relationship to continue. And remember, her aunt is the R&B singer Sparkle. And Sparkle has come out and said, I know nothing about what she's saying, and I asked her to make Robert her godfather. Right. And I received a call. I was on a beautiful call yesterday with Miss Diane Copeland. You saw her on Good Morning America. She was Robert's executive assistant. We had a lengthy conversation yesterday. I've had calls this week with Sharon Winbush, who was Robert's nutritionist, and she shed a lot of light on things with me. And she said, look, Robert really needs you. Robert really needs to talk to you. You're the first person, because Robert is used to yes people. You're the first person that just got in Robert's stuff and told him, look, you're not 100% innocent in all of this. But Robert is taking some accountability. Should a RICO law that was created by Congress in 1970 to take down mob families, should that be used now to go after guys like Robert? No, it wasn't designed for that. But like I say, when our oppressors develop and manufacture these laws, they know how to reconstruct these laws in order to destroy Black men. We're seeing that with the same allegations that came out with Bill Cosby, George Foreman. Some women in the 70s who their father worked for George Foreman. Now it's saying they was afraid to come forward and he was abusing them. Well, you never told your father, you never told a family member, but now you've been trying to extort him for $12.5 million. You have the allegations against Snoop Dogg. And you have to understand that these allegations are forming because you have a lot of angry Black women out here. A lot of angry Black women, angry at Black men. And remember when Snoop came after Gayle King. And I want to remind your audience of this because I'm just trying to help you connect the dots to see what's happening.
Let me stop you right quick because I want to bring in Dennis. Dennis is actually Dennis Byron. Dennis and Andrew, say hello to each other. Dennis is.
How you doing?
Dennis?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
How you doing, Dennis?
What's going on? I'm gonna call you Andrew.
Call me Andrew, please.
Killer formalities.
Dennis is traveling, so he has a limited amount of time with us. But I want to bring him in before he had to leave. Now, you all can support, and Dennis is no stranger to this channel. He was on talking about R. Kelly. He's actually been covering this since day one, and he has been tweeting out information. And I just want everybody to get his Cash App right there to support him. He's the editor-in-chief and creator of Hip Hop Inquirer, and he's in transit now. So I'm going to allow Dennis to talk just a little bit about what he's observed, because he has actually been in court, and he's been tweeting about what he has seen so far. So, Dennis, if you want to comment about R. Kelly, Robert, as Andrew likes to call him, because he's actually said you can't be R. Kelly anymore. You have to be Robert.
Well, that's my whole thing. I told him, R. Kelly was your stage name. You have to be humanized now and be called Robert or Mr. Kelly. And that's the whole deal of humanizing a person. I think people fail to realize when Mr. Cosby, the allegations came out, we didn't no longer say America's Dad or iconic comedian, Bill Cosby. We made sure to say Mr. Cosby because we wanted to garner that respect back to him that America mainstream media tried to take.
All right. But Dennis, tell us.
To that point, I've said it countless times that you have the entertainer and then you have the man. What is happening in the media, and Andrew, you can probably attest to this, is that the entertainer is on trial and
Right.
his career is on trial versus Robert Sylvester Kelly, who is actually the person that people have to know and understand, the people that have been around him over decades. So it's interesting trial. I'm surprised it even got this far, but I was also surprised at what went on in New York's Brooklyn federal court. But I would say this: Attorney Jennifer Bonjean, she's not missing many. She's not missing any beats. And before I comment too much on the case, there's things that I want to say, but I don't want to say things that would. While she's a great attorney, I don't want to say things that can actually alter the direction of the case, so to speak. Where I see a lot of journalists that are actually doing that.
Right.
Well, I want to point out. I want
to talk about what I mean has already been made public. If you want to talk about what you've seen.
I would say that I had issues with the veteran detective and some of the things that I would expect a seasoned detective to ask. For example, if you received a copy of a tape from, obviously Jim Derrigati said he got it from an anonymous source, but he's now revealed through his writings who he got it from. Why did he retain another copy, and why didn't this detective who was part of the SVU, the sex unit, not ask, do you have any other tapes in your possession? You're working on the story, but at some point you're working on a story, but then you bring in the police. So at that point, you shouldn't have possession of any type of alleged pornography. And then you have the aunt Sparkle, who's live tweeting while her niece is on the stand, which is problematic when you don't have a sequestered jury. So the fact that there's not a sequestered jury and a lot of things that have been said, there must be, and this is where you can, you as a crisis manager, I don't know if that's the proper way to call it.
Yeah, it's proper. That's what I do.
So as a crisis manager, you have to look at this and say that, while juries are told not to look at any media, this is 2022.
Well, look, that was my role. I knew that they had tainted Mr. Cosby so poorly, even in this trial that Jennifer just got, and I just got through doing in California, in Santa Monica. I knew that the jury was not sequestered. They was reading the papers. And my job, I told her, I'm going to taint the jury pool. They had already tainted the jury pool. I'm going to try my best to untaint the jury pool. And that's why before the judge, he was getting ready on a Friday to take a partial verdict. And he had gotten to that partial verdict, Mr. Cosby would have had to pay $50 million out that day. Because I had influence around the courthouse, I shut down the courthouse, which gave us a new day. They had to start back over deliberations. That's not what the attorney can do. The attorney has to be worried about canon laws. They can't attack the judge, as you can speak on that, Gavin, because of canon law. So they're always worried about how their bar license is going to be sanctioned. So I don't have to worry.
Means something. Yeah.
I don't worry about any of those things. I come in and my job is to say, okay, I'm going to spin a narrative. I never was on social media. I got on social media because I moved out to Santa Monica on April 18th, and I saw mainstream media trying to ignore that civil trial. So I got on Instagram and I became a reporter. That's the thing. You gotta morph yourself doing this, what I do. 1 minute you might play a good attorney on TV. Sometimes you got to play a reporter on TV. You got to play them and beat them at the game that they're playing. And because I worked for ABC and Fox News for 12 years in the business, I know those games because that's what they taught me. They used to teach us how to set people up and political people up. So, and then coming from a civil rights town, Birmingham, Alabama, and most of my professors at Miles College were civil rights leaders like Shuttlesworth. They would be visiting professors, Andy Young. I represented the SCLC for 12 years. You got to know, as Michael Jordan always said, in order to win championships, you got to understand the history of the game.
Facts.
And it's a history. And Jennifer, when I recommended her, and they hired her, Robert's cousin, Keith, who I'm finding out is not his cousin now, his best friend, who's handling a lot of things for him. We discussed this case heavily in California. I did tell Jennifer, I said, look, it's going to be an uphill battle. Robert called me last week, and he wanted me to come in for the trial. I just felt my presence would take away from what Jennifer was doing. And I did not want it. I could have been very effective to help Robert to change the narrative, because like in Cosby, jurors, they were supposed to be sequestered, but they was at Target. They got to go on outings to the zoo. And we caught, my investigators were following them around, and we actually caught them reading the magazines at the magazine stand. We caught them. And jurors in this day and age, there's no the word sequester doesn't exist anymore with social media.
The problem with that, I'm sorry to cut you off. The problem with that is the judges know this, and the fact that they don't exercise sequestering juries, especially a jury with such a high profile defendant, is problematic. And it's almost like, and I think you remember Gavin, when I talked about how the information that was being disseminated to certain members of the press in New York weren't being sent to me. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I had someone tell someone from PIO said, oh, I didn't think you wanted to be on the distribution list. What are you talking about?
You're a reporter. Of course you would want to be.
I'm credentialed. I'm there. Why would I not want to be on the distribution list?
But that's why, Dennis, media entities like yours, and that was our saving grace. If we didn't have entities like yours and Gavin, when you can't depend on mainstream media and they see you go to shows like your show, then mainstream media wakes up and was like, oh, no. We don't want him on this particular show, enriching this show and putting information in. That's the beauty, where if I was, Roberts is supposed to call me this week, or, he's been having people reach out to me every day. But one of the things I wanted to tell him, an entity like yours, he needs to talk to. Now it's time to use your vocal cords. What I did for Mr. Cosby that was so unique, and it was a great strategy in 2019.
You did a great job on that. I didn't have a chance to tell you that, but I watched how you handled the press, and that was masterful.
Well, thank you. Like I say, most people, the majority of people who do what I do, they've never worked in the business. So they don't understand a press release. They don't understand how to deal with guys like you, Dennis, and with your publication. They don't know how to work you guys, how to get information to you guys, because we do have to work with you. We do have to have dinner with you. We have to take you guys out. That's the only way we're going to get you to hear our story. But I handed Mr. Cosby over with one of the inmates, Anthony Sutton, who's been in prison now for 38 years. And they was participating in a Man Up program that Anthony started, Mr. Cosby was. And I gave his first interview to Black Press USA. Robert has to do, since you're covering the trial, and I'm giving this away for free, because this is not about money for me. This is about salvaging the assassination and preventing the assassination attempts of Black successful men in America. And how they're now using Black women to do this, because now you can't use the race card when you use Black women. And I think if Robert was to call in and just talk to you and talk to your readers and just call in, it will bring him the rewards and help him defeat. It will be a strategy that's part of the destruction of the government. That's what he has.
He's the biggest microphone.
Right.
Quite honestly, he's the biggest microphone. And I think even going to Gail King's show, that
Mhm.
was poorly done in that you have to know when you sit in that chair the questions that are going to be given to you by someone as seasoned as Gail. And it was a train wreck. And we're
Right.
going to
Well,
be honest. It was
I tried to, Dennis. I tried to stop that interview. Um, I told them I knew from sources, producers on the inside of CBS, um, and I had some information. And the guy Darrell Johnson, who lied to get on the team, I have emails where one of our former counsel reached out to me and said Darrell is telling Robert Kelly and Steve Greenberg, Robert's former lawyer, that he worked for Bill Cosby. He was the crisis manager. I said, that's not true. That's not true. Got the email threads with Greenberg to say that's not true, and they hired him anyway. Then we found out that CBS, through some entities associated with Gail, had funneled money to Darrell Johnson that was supposed to go to Robert to help his legal issues out. And Robert never got to see a dime of that money. And it was a set-up interview. I knew when Gail purposely sat there, when Robert became irate and emotional, and it reminded me of King Kong movie. She sat there like the damsel in distress and looked at him while he screamed. And that created that King Kong image of how America view a black man when they got angry. Like, oh my God, he's gonna harm me. Let me just stay still. You know how they say when when you got bulldogs or vicious dogs about to attack you, just don't move. She
well,
created the image of the
a meme,
vicious dog.
right? It was a meme that was waiting to happen. And I asked at the time as I watched it in real time, like everyone else, who set this interview up?
Yeah.
You know, but then
Why,
I've been on pressers with Daryl. Excuse me.
why would his attorneys allow him to do something like that? Because anything you
And,
say
and, and
can
that's
be used.
another good question. That did they actually huddle to talk about strategy in doing that show?
No, they didn't. Robert, I was given Robert's cell number by his spiritual advisor, a lady by the name of Janet Edmond, who I had been on the phone with for 2 years. I've been on the phone with so many different characters associated with him, and she turned out to be very forthright. I even gave her Kellyanne Conway's cell number when she was trying to get in touch with Donald Trump. I said, well, I can give you her cell number. Kellyanne Conway picked up the phone, but I did tell her, if you don't know what to say to her, you're not going to get a return phone call back. And Kellyanne Conway said, look, I'll call you back. Um, the problem is that no one strategized. Everybody saw the money because legal bills needed to be paid. So they said, well, go ahead and do it and just be you. Well, you're dealing with a guy who has a 71 IQ. Now, just because you got a 71 IQ don't mean you're not smart. At least you got an IQ. No one said you had a 0 IQ. And Robert should have known better, but they set him up and said, only you could tell your story. That's not true. You have to be able to tell your story when you have been rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed for that moment. And there was no rehearsal that took place with Robert, unfortunately. And I tried to get it stopped because I knew the network that Robert should have been going with at that moment. And that should have been black media. Black media. And my whole job, what I wanted to do was put Robert in a room where the black YouTubers, the black hip hop magazines, the people who were going to allow him to be him and not judge his emotions. And it failed. It was a failed attempt because what I'm realizing now, even with Cosby, and we went through so many attorneys that I had to get rid of, there's always cards being dealt under the table.
Now, let me
And
ask you a question. As someone we've both been in media for many, many years. Why is it, especially with black defendants, they go to white media outlets first and not want to tell a story to, especially in 22 with some very popular uh, blog sites like the Shade Room and Baller Alert and Jasmine Brand or Revolt TV. Why don't not you per se, but the crisis, and some of them don't even have crisis managers. why don't they reach the people that will ultimately have to sit on these juries of their peers?
Well, let me add that.
Oh, they have the agents, and you have publicists.
What?
Publicists who are only used to doing the glitz and glamour stuff. They're not used to doing that when allegations of things badly surface in your life. Same thing what Will Smith publicist did. The minute that slap happened, she gave him the worst advice in the world. Do this apology, be emotional. No, if it was me, I would have went to Will and said to Will, here's the deal, man. This is going to be an indelible moment for you right now. And you created this moment. Now, what you should do is get up to the microphone and you apologize for your behavior. And you should say that this is not the behavior of Richard Williams. This is not the behavior of the sisters. Because what you did, you took away from mainstream media to tell people to continue to watch that movie. Then you say to the public in that audience, I don't deserve this. I'm going to give this award back to you. And then when I feel that I deserve, I will come back and do another great movie. Then what you have done, you have put the Oscars on defense to say, now we don't know how to come after him. Now we don't want the award back. It was a moment we attacked him. He missed it. But when you have publicists like his publicist with the lead company, she's thinking about that $20,000 a month she's making. Okay, that's a lot of money. And you got your agent.
I'm sure Will's paying more than that.
Well, he's paying her more. He's paying her $20,000 a month, but that's not the percentages that she get on every deal she gets him too. Right. So they'll take the $20,000 a month because the back end is much sweeter. But when you don't have that around you, and that's why I'm telling these actors today who I know, people I know, start telling your story now before you get an allegation on you. Start going to Black media. Start getting involved with people in Black media. Start giving them exclusive stories before you get into trouble. Because then once you got Black people on your side, they think twice about bringing the allegations against you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the biggest thing, and I know, Dennis, you got to run.
Right. I do. I got to be in court tomorrow.
So you flying from Atlanta to Chicago, back to Chicago?
Yes. So that's why I'm rushing, guys.
It was a pleasure meeting you. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you soon.
And I probably want, while I'm outside, covering the story at the courthouse, might want to get you on as well, and let's discuss.
I would love to. I would love to.
So you have my Instagram, my Twitter. My Twitter is at Mr. Dennis Byron, and
I'll get everything from Gavin, and then
appreciate it.
I'm not on Twitter. I'm just on Instagram. I'm new to all of this, but I'll get on Instagram with you, and we'll go from there.
Okay, appreciate it, Gavin. And thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and see you in the Windy City. It's not windy tomorrow, but
when it gets windy,
it's be windy tomorrow.
But Chicago, I tell everybody, one of my favorite cities. But in Chicago, you can get 4 seasons in one day, so it might be windy tomorrow.
Oh my goodness, I'll pack right then. All right, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I want to answer something that Dennis had said, just to what he said. Why do they go to the white media? I think it goes further than that. I think there's a perception, especially among Black people, that's always been that the white man's ice is colder. And we, of course, like Gavin Richard, my YouTube channel, I'm not CBS or NBC or Fox or anything like that. However, I have a platform, and my platform is not as big as obviously those guys, but my platform, though, is independent. And it's not tied to corporate interests, which is what we find, Andrew, many of our media is owned by. I mean, if you look at the NBCs, the CBSs, the ABCs, ABC is owned by Disney. NBC is owned by Comcast. CBS is owned by Viacom CBS.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, I don't know if you know this, there was actually a plan where NBC and CBS actually were going to merge not too long ago. They were talking about a merger.
Very with it, but it's always been disagreement, and that's not the first time they talked about merging.
Right.
It's been on the table a number of times. Look, Viacom on CBS, but they're on also Showtime.
They
You
also,
know,
yeah.
these entities branch off, like Disney owns ABC, ESPN, Hulu. They branch
20th
off.
Century Fox now.
Yes, and they branch off, and they can reconstruct and deconstruct who and what they want us to be. And when they want us to be at the top of the mountain, they can reconstruct us to becoming a huge name. That's why I look at, you're looking at what's happening to Snoop Dogg with a woman coming out. Well, you got to understand where that's coming from. Snoop called Gayle King what? A dog-faced bee. When
Yeah.
she interviewed Lisa Leslie about Kobe Bryant and how she tried to bring up Kobe's sexual assault allegations.
That she never apologized for, too.
But remember, so you got to always go back to one person. Somebody said something interesting to Snoop. And that person said, Snoop, don't come for us. We have an army that would take you down. After he said that about Gayle King. And that was who? Susan Rice.
Susan Rice.
So you got to understand that these Black women who have their hands into the government and the federal government, when they get pissed off with you, there's no conversation with these Black women. Now we're going to come after you, and they're sending a message to Snoop now. You might get past this one, but we're going to put a muzzle over your mouth now. And you're going to be careful on how you attack people.
Yeah.
Because after Susan Rice made that comment, what did Snoop have to do? He had to do an apologize. So people don't take the time, Gavin, to look deep into these situations and understand how these situations work. And people don't take the time to educate themselves and learn the history of this game. This is nothing new. History is not repeating itself. It just never changed. These people that we're seeing these tactics come from, these revolutionary war tactics, it's the same tactics that we use on survivors of the Holocaust. These tactics are nothing new, okay? It's the same tactics that were used to destroy Black Wall Street. The tactics are nothing new. You're thinking it's the same tactics that were used to have dogs ripping the skin off of Black people and hoses, fire hoses, ripping the skin off of their bodies like you could rip the bark off of a tree. These tactics are nothing new. And we have to understand the history of our oppressors. If we don't understand the history and know the history of our oppressors, we're going to always end up in these situations.
Yeah. I want to play a clip from, I was playing it while Dennis was on, from WGN, because I see Jennifer in this clip.
Okay.
This is from WGN. Yeah, I think that was Jennifer here. But I'm also want to talk about and to show another clip, not a clip, but actually some pictures so everybody understands what's going on. And I'm tying it into something that's going on right now. But let me play this so everybody can see. Let's put a copyright disclaimer up first. I've put that up, of course, the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, and scholarship and research. And it is permitted under copyright statute. So let's play that right now.
You broke up, Bonjean asked Jane. Cross-examination today at the hands of R. Kelly's lawyers and a pair of attorneys representing two co-defendants. Now, defense attorneys during cross-examination seeking to establish what they argue are inconsistencies in the witness's story. R. Kelly's attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, cross-examining the witness at the Dirksen Federal Building today. Even after you broke up, Bonjean asked Jane, you would still meet up with Mr. Kelly to become intimate, despite how terribly abusive he was to you? The witness admitting she still saw the R&B singer from time to time after his 2008 acquittal in Cook County Circuit Court. Jane, in cross-examination, also admitting Kelly paid for her apartment after they broke up, moving out to a South suburban University Park apartment, with Kelly wiring money to the witness on occasion. The potentially damaging testimony on the heels of yesterday's 4 hours on the witness stand, where she testified that back in 2002, Kelly started videotaping their sexual encounters. When did that start? Prosecutors asked the witness. When I was 15, she says. How were the recordings made? There were lighting and camera recorders in the room. How did you feel about all of this? I was uncomfortable, she testifies, but I just went with the flow. The witness, now 37 years of age, facing her alleged abuser in the courtroom, describing how the R&B legend groomed her into a sex partner. In testimony yesterday, Jane publicly admitting that she was the girl in the video, in that R. Kelly video you may remember from the 2008 trial at Cook County Circuit Court. Her decision at the 11th hour not to testify, a major factor, jurors say, in Kelly's acquittal. At the Dirksen Federal Building, Julia Cruz, WGN News.
So she didn't testify at the original trial. And so
Right.
for people that, so they won't get confused in how they did this, they'll say, why is not double jeopardy taking place? Because they are using federal charges against R. Kelly now and connecting that under the RICO statute, and also saying that he tried to influence, basically obstruct justice by preventing the witness to testify. So that's why double jeopardy doesn't apply when it's two different jurisdictions. Although, and something they didn't point out in this, because in another, I think it was in another news article, we had played it, news video, we played it on Thursday's show, where she was forced to admit that she still was in contact with R. Kelly, even to this day. Even for her birthday, she invited him, I believe, to her party. So that does play into when we're talking about credibility issues. Now, how this started, Andrew, and for everybody, in part, we know that that documentary Surviving R. Kelly came out.
Mhm.
And and when that came out, this woman, her name is Kim Fox. She is the state attorney of Cook County in Chicago, which is Chicago. She held a press conference after the documentary and asked that if anyone had any information about them if you were abused by R. Kelly, to contact our office. Now, there's a problem with that because, first off, you do not have probable cause
Mhm.
to even initiate an investigation into R. Kelly until someone else comes in. You solicited
Mhm.
essentially victims, and let's say that, and for the sake of argument, even if you say there are victims and that are legitimate, we don't know that, you still don't know that for a fact. And when you do that, you can encourage, let's just say, gold diggers, people that want money, people that are vindictive, to try and sink their teeth into this case. And that would actually hurt even, and everybody has even said this before, real people who have been victimized, if it is true. My other problem with it, and let's point out this picture here. Now, you, Andrew, of course, you know who this woman is. We know who this is. Now, interesting enough, this is Gloria Allred. I'm surprised that she's not involved with the R. Kelly case, because she has a habit,
Well,
as
she
you know.
was involved with the one in New York. She had 7 women that she was representing.
Okay, I take that back. Yeah,
Mhm.
she was involved. So yeah, she was involved in that. But I'm surprised she's not involved in this one.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
she got what she wanted in New York. She was involved in that trial. The women that she represented in the New York case, they testified against R. Kelly in New York. So she doesn't have any women in this case. There's another woman, an attorney, I can't think of her name. She's like the Gloria Allred of Chicago, who Daryl McDavid, I think, who's R. Kelly's manager, would call Robert up at the time and say, hey, we got another woman. And this lady would call Daryl, and Daryl would let R. Kelly know. And I hope I'm saying the right name, McDavid, but he would let Robert know. Robert would say, okay, funnel her XYZ. and they were paying off women. And she said, okay, well, there's another woman coming out. So Robert would just, this his confidant, his advisor, his business manager, McDavid would say, okay, Robert, we can make this go away. This only cost you $75,000. Some will cost him $150,000. Some will cost him $200,000, just depending on what the attorney would call. She, like I said, she calls herself the Glory already Chicago.
Somebody say the name is Susan Logan.
And Susan Logan. So, and thank you to your viewer who put the name up.
Shout out to him. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a concerted effort, and you got these women out here like All Red who want to go under the category of so-called feminists, but that's not who they are. These are women who, for something happened in their life where they have been rejected by men and maybe rejected by a black man, or a black man, maybe it was a one-night stand and didn't call them back. And they have a lot of anger against black men. And we're now seeing that with black women in this business also. Black women who might not be as attractive, and now they're using their resources and their wealth to get beautiful black women to go after black men to take them down now, because they figured out, and it all goes back to Bill Cosby because he was a litmus test. They figured out that we can parade the numbers out. That's helpful, but we can't parade white women out anymore. So now we will make these promises to beautiful black women, because if you're not an attractive black woman, then people won't believe it. That's why Tawana Burke, who created Me Too, out front. That's why they have, a lot of the women, and I probably might get attacked for saying this, and that's okay. I'm used to that because that's the world I live in, and that's why my goal is to be a voice to protect Black America, and not for civil rights, because there's civil rights. Not our civil rights. It's about for equal rights. That's what we have to fight for. That's what white people fight for, equal rights. But you got the Gayle Kings and the Oprah of the world. Gayle King and Oprah, who did a contract with Viacom. Well, Viacom now has a contract with Me Too and Time's Up. So any person, any woman that comes with an allegation, CBS is going to talk about it because they developed those contracts. But you got two angry black women who are very powerful, however, very powerful, but might not be the most attractive. Okay, and you might not be getting the attention from the successful black men like the Michael Jordans of the world, or these black men like Snoop Dogg of the world, or whomever, or the Bill Cosbys of the world. So you're not getting their attention, and you turn up the heat to say, you know what? I got a hatred for black men in America, and I'm going to take them down. That's what's going on in America. And they're using our black women. They must. It's mandatory. And I'm not saying a lot of black guys I hear haven't done something to hurt somebody, cheating, whatever you want to call it. We all have our fallacies and our idiosyncrasies. We all do. But use your vagina now as weapons to destroy black men. We look at commercials today. They're showing black women with white guys to say the way to the American dream is to do away with the black man. That's etched in the minds of little girls now. It's etched in the minds of little girls who are becoming teenagers. And we see every day, Gavin, I don't care what community you go in, we see drug dealers and wealthy white men picking up 15, 16-year-olds, taking them shopping, paying the mother's rent, paying the gas bill, putting food on the table. If you're really concerned about black girls, why aren't you really going after all of these so-called predators? Nobody wants to have that conversation because they made it a religious conversation. They have made it about religion that, if we can use religion
held
say
accountable.
right, then we could destroy the black man.
They don't want to be held accountable. That's why they're
Right.
doing this. And let me say this though: I would state that white people don't fight for equal rights, like you're saying. They're fighting for white supremacy, and that's
Right.
what we're seeing today. But what you're saying, uh, not just about the black women with the white men. I'm seeing, of course, commercials now. Black men with other black men, or black men with white men. They have making and they have they have emasculated the black man on
Right.
television. And and I will say this especially about Dr. Cosby. He was one of he was the main. Something very interesting, Andrew. The TV shows that were on in the '80s before the Cosby Show that had black characters, like for instance on NBC, I believe it was "Give Me a Break" and
Right.
"Different Strokes." Well, I was watching the "Give Me a Break" E True Hollywood Story, and what's interesting is around the sixth season of the show, they made a decision to cancel it because they were saying NBC didn't need this style of comedy since the Cosby Show was on with an upper class black family. The idea of a black maid still watching out for three white kids just
Right.
didn't sit quite well. And so he influenced and affected that change.
Well,
And
the biggest change that he affected
yeah,
uh, is when NBC came to him and told him to take down Nelson Mandela picture off of Theo's wall. And he said, the moment you take it down, I walk away from the show. And they didn't take it down. Another great change he did, at the dinner table, you never saw them eating collard greens or fried chicken
right.
or watermelon. You saw them eating the meals, enjoying a hoagie, a cheesesteak, or a hamburger, or having a Thanksgiving dinner. You saw them enjoying the meals that they like to show white people enjoy, but
Right.
not us. It wasn't just stereotypical meals. So he changed the way of thinking, and he made us change the way we thought. Not saying we don't love our fried chicken and collard greens, but we know the negative connotation that white people view us when they see us eating those things, watermelon, how they look at us. There's another N word. That's all they see us.
Mhm.
Even when we eat certain foods and we enjoy. Now they love enjoying our food too, but when you see them in the chicken joint or the fried chicken joint, they all want to change their language and try to sound like us.
Yeah.
But even fried chicken, like, oh, this fried chicken's good. We have to understand that entertainment is the biggest influence of young people and of the world. Entertainment during the pandemic we saw equated for 35% of the world's economy because it has such a big influence on us and on young minds today. We see it through social media, how entertainment now you look at social media and everybody's trying to do the same thing. Everybody's trying to create those sensationalized lifestyles in order to get likes and clicks. That's what it's all about. I think it's imperative that, as black men, in this fight that you and I are in, Gavin, and we might be fighting it on different platforms, but it's still the same fight. And it goes back to the revolutions in the home.
Yeah.
That's what it goes back to.
I do have a few more questions, and I want to tie it in with the DeShaun Watson situation in a second.
Right.
Since you brought up NBC and that Nelson Mandela poster, I did have a question with regards to, for instance, the Cosby Show and then A Different World, which basically helped resurrect NBC because most people don't realize NBC was near bankruptcy before the Cosby Show was to take place. They were losing to TV shows like Dallas and Magnum PI on CBS.
Well, let
And
me correct you. Cosby saved them from bankruptcy 7 times, total
right,
7. And he saved also William Morris from bankruptcy, the largest agency that represents some of the biggest names in the world, from Beyonce. He was their number one. He had been with them for 50 years. He saved them from bankruptcy. So, and William Morris represents just about everybody on NBC. and they represent the network. So I just want to give you those facts, just so you know.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. But what I have to ask you something. So, because you brought this up earlier about the Viacom CBS and their own Showtime, it just turns out YouTube's Showtime channel, they put out that it's not a documentary, it's a mockumentary. We need to talk about Cosby. And I want to ask you, because I know you said Dr. Cosby doesn't even know who Camu Bell is and so forth, but like, I'm just curious, where is the hatred coming from people like Michael Jai White or because Michael has been on Vlad talking about Dr. Cosby. I've seen the Jamel Hills. I mean, did Michael Jai White, for instance, did he ever work with Dr. Cosby or anything, or what was that about?
Hatred comes from a lack of work. You know, and when I mean these are CD list entertainers, and they're not working. So, you know, you look at Garcelle Bouvier, who's written his memoir, and on Passover during Easter, I got ABC reached out to me and sent me excerpts from her interview, and she was saying that she got away from Mr. Cosby. He tried to get her intoxicated as a minor, and she got out the house. You know, and she talked about her sexcapades with Michael Jordan, Will Smith, and all of these people. But Mr. Cosby still is the #1 pitch man, like he was Coca-Cola. So you invoke Bill Cosby name, or you invoke Andrew Wyatt now and Bill Cosby name, and it creates an audience of people wanting something to talk about. And so every time somebody has a project or they're trying to highlight themselves in some manner, they always invoke Bill Cosby. Now Vlad is angry with me because Vlad tried to, and I still have all his text messages. Vlad lied on me about a number of things, and he put those things in writing. And
What
then,
does he lie about? He lied about Minister Farrakhan too.
right, and so Vlad gets Faison Love on his show and said Andrew Wyatt is touting himself as a celebrity, and that I need to interview him. He's not a celebrity. I never said that to Vlad. I said Mr. Cosby is not taking interviews at this time, but I'll be happy to, you know, talk about you. If you want to talk about the facts, let's go through the deposition. He switched everything around, but he forgot he put everything in text message. So Faison went on his show and said Andrew needs to be disciplined. Kara Dangerous on the Kara Dangerous show wanted to talk about it. I came on and read all of the text messages. Faison, he went after Vlad. And Faison and I have since talked. We talked last month. And Faison said, man, he knows that I don't deal with him. I don't want to deal with him no more. See, who's supporting?
Faison has been very supportive of Bill, Dr. Cosby.
Yeah, very, very, and he's been a great friend. And so we had that conversation as men. I didn't bash Faison. I wanted Faison. I sent him the text messages. And when he read Vlad's words in writing, he said he made a fool out of me. He lied to me. You know, these entities like Vlad are being supported by a handful of white people who want to use those platforms to destroy Black people. So Michael J. White, the last I've heard of him, he was in the movie Spawn. I never heard of this guy. Cosby don't know this guy. All of these people are lacking work. So when they're lacking work,
I do. I got to be in court tomorrow.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When they're lacking work, they use the most egregious behavior, and they go back to the egregious behavior of Hannibal Buress, who got on stage and did that joke, Bill Cosby's a rapist. You know, they saw him get work and opportunity. So they're doing the same thing. We don't know these people. We don't know them. We don't care to know them. We know that they're just actors looking for work.
Yeah. That's like Jaleel White, because he has his marijuana company he was pushing, and he talked about how he met Dr. Cosby, Bill Cosby, to do the Cosby Show, and said, made that remark on his TV One special. You know,
I asked Mr. Cosby about that, and Mr. Cosby said that he put Jaleel in touch with the creator, the guy who created
Family Matters,
the Brown Hornet, and the guy called Mr. Cosby back and said, "This guy's not that smart." He said he's not an intelligent guy because Jaleel wanted to do something totally ridiculous with the Brown Hornet. And Mr. Cosby spoke with Jaleel and said, look, what you're trying to do is not the direction we want to go. So that's what Jaleel White is upset about. It has nothing to do with Cosby doing something to him personally. He just wasn't that intelligent. And Mr. Cosby wanted, and the creator of the Brown Hornet felt that they wanted to deal with someone who had the intelligence and who wanted to use that cartoon to elevate the education of Black people in America. And Jaleel didn't want to do that. He wanted to turn it into a lot of negativity and a lot of the stuff that we see on TV, like it was like reality TV. And they were not willing to go with that. So Jaleel became angry and upset. That's the story. That's the behind the scenes story on it.
Right. As you know, this is interesting from what you're telling me. Now I know someone that knows Jaleel. I've never spoken to him or anything like that. But hearing that from you, I'm just talking about what I saw in the interview. But we don't hear this stuff because they always go to one side and just get that.
No one ever contacted me to give my side. W. Kamau Bell interviewed Tom Mesereau for 3 hours.
Right. Tom told me.
3 hours. Okay. W. Kamau Bell never called me to say, hey, I want to talk to you about, get your perspective. Because this was a witch hunt, and it was started by Zucker, the president of CNN. And you got to remember, CNN was the one parading the women out.
Right.
You got to remember, Kamau Bell has a show on CNN called United Shades of Black America, or whatever.
Nobody watches.
Nobody watches it. So Zucker has had a hatred for Bill Cosby ever since Mr. Cosby, when Zucker was the president of NBC, and he was having dinner in Mr. Cosby's New York home, and he said something very racial about Black people and how Mr. Cosby needed to stop trying to elevate Black people to become entrepreneurs, and he needed to get out that fight. And Mr. Cosby politely told Zucker, he said, get your coat. And Zucker thought they were about to go for a walk since they had just got through with dinner. And he said, you get out my house, you Nazi. So he called a Jewish man a Nazi. And he said, I will get you back for this one day. So who paraded the women out CNN? Who had W. Kamau Bell and partnered with W. Kamau Bell, CNN, and Showtime, Viacom, to do this documentary, and it was purposely done, Gavin. Why? Because, and look at the time that it was put out, around the time it was put out. They knew we had the civil trial coming up in Santa Monica. They weren't trying to influence the jury pool. Same reason why they have Garcelle Bouvier coming out with her memoir in LA, because of the civil trial coming up in Santa Monica. Okay, that was the whole premise. If we can ruin and taint a jury pool in Santa Monica, he would have had to pay between $20 and $50 million out. They got a judgment of $500,000. This case has been going on for 7 years. Judy Huff has a $4.7 million legal bill with Gloria Allred and Nathan Goldberg, her partner. And we got no punitive damages. That was the greatest win. If you want to compare the two stories, it's the same story of Alex Jones, who was hit with a multi-million-dollar settlement, and we didn't get hit with that. So that was a huge win, and we have filed an appeal. So $500,000 made Judy Huff she had to go back to work as a tour guide at a winery. So that was a win for us. All of these things are well orchestrated to say we have to take this man's property away from him. Mr. Cosby, the acreage that he lives on in Massachusetts, 2 houses on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, the house in Pacific Palisades, all of the land he owns in Maryland and Virginia, the parking lots, the house in Elkins Park, the art collection. He slipped through the cracks. And that's the problem when you slip through the cracks. Okay, and you're Black slipping through the cracks. And he slipped through the cracks. And even still today, he uses his financial means and resources to educate people. We have a young lady right now that we're paying for her education to get her doctorate. We're making those final payments. We have students that we were obligated to that we're paying for their education to get their masters or stuff like that. So nothing has stopped. We're continuing to do the work that they have always been doing for all of their lives, to give almost $300+ million to historically Black colleges and public white institutions. That's phenomenal for an individual to have been able to do that and still been able to do that.
Yeah. Dr. Cosby, I've always talked about that. He's given well over $100 million. Let me correct that. Dr. Cosby and Mrs. Cosby.
Cosby, right.
To HBCUs, Judge Mathis brought that up, and I believe only Michael Jackson might be the only one that edges Dr. Cosby out in terms of monies given to HBCUs. People don't know Michael did a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Michael paid for David Ruffin's funeral.
Right.
I think he also paid for Jackie Wilson's headstone because most of those celebrities died broke. And a great positive thing I can point about Dr. Cosby, he is not going to die. Hopefully, I know he's not going to die broke or anything like that.
As long as Mrs. Cosby is at the helm, that he won't.
They know how to manage money. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, Mrs. Cosby, everything you see is Mrs. Cosby. And I told everybody, to know her and to have late night conversations with her to 2 a.m. Our biggest joke is that while Mr. Cosby is sleeping, her and I were working, and we'll work to 2 a.m. We'll get on the phone at midnight laughing, and it's always look, man, it's amazing to be on the phone with her and to just see how she orchestrates things and put things together, and how smart she is, and how she protects the family, and how we come up with all these amazing strategies together. So Mrs. Cosby is the brainchild behind his career. She was the one that pushed him to get the education, and while she was having children, they were starting a family. She was pushing him. She was the one he would have to approve. She was approving his comedy routines and his material. That was all approved by Mrs. Cosby, and she hasn't, as a business manager, and she hasn't stopped, overseeing the success of Mr. Cosby. So, and even my success, I have to say, she gives me the ability to say, hey, we need to get rid of this, and we need to not do this with this person. We need to bring this person on. And she doesn't second guess me, on it. She'll just say, Mr. Wyatt, I trust you. And then I just always tell her, I said, Mrs. Cosby, I said, for almost 13 years, I haven't had a failure on my record with you. And I always remind her, I said, I haven't had one failure yet. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I haven't had a failure. And she even asked me, she said, I remember her calling me up 3 months ago, and she said, why won't you jump in this R. Kelly thing? Why won't you go publicly with this? I think your voice is needed. And I just told her, I said, Robert is a phenomenal person. I enjoy talking with him. I said, but I have to be in control.
Yeah.
And Robert has to want to let go of the inner circle. That circle is the same reason he's here. I saw someone post up that in Chicago, we refer to people as cousins. We do the same thing. That's not just Chicago. That's happens everywhere. So it's not just a Chicago thing, a thing. It's not a Black thing. Robert has people that he likes keeping around him because he likes having some form of control. Well, right now, that control is what got you, and those group of people are the ones that got you in this predicament that you're in right now. Not saying you can't get out of it, but you got to show me that you want me to win. you know, and if you don't show me that you want me to win, how can I be effective? You know, I don't get into this to hurt you and you're already wounded. That doesn't benefit me. I don't get into this because of the money. I get into this because of my nephews. And when I look at black boys playing in the yard, and I look at young black men out here trying to make a name for themselves, and they have a sense of direction that's not sound, you know, that's what this is about. This has nothing to do it has nothing to do with me making a name for myself or enriching myself off of Bill Cosby. No, it's bigger than Bill Cosby. It's bigger than Robert Kelly.
Right.
Right. So
And I'd point out something to you, Mrs. Cosby. Yeah, someone said black women are a great gift from the universe. Yes, Mrs. Cosby is a class act. I love her. Just tell her I
right.
said, yeah.
Thank you.
We've always admired Mrs. Cosby. You know, but please tell us. I would hope one day, especially with all these lawsuits, I was praying she would come out and just curse all of these people, these women out just once. Dr. Cosby.
Look,
He
we
won't stand up back where he's using vulgarity at least. I mean,
well, look. We talk candidly about a lot of things, and she's a real black woman, and she's a human being. She's not a robot.
right.
You know, she has feelings and emotions, and she has her thoughts and opinions. Uh, but you know, I've delivered her to do interviews. I think it's going to be, you
Yeah.
know, one of those things where, you know, we're working on some things, Gavin. We're working on some amazing things that I think is going to blow some people's minds. And, you know, people, you know, you saw it when I have to give her, I have to always give her a credit because she got on me. She was like, I want my photo credit. I'm a photographer now. Those pictures that she released of Mr. Cosby for his 1 year anniversary of his prison sentence being vacated and his birthday photo, those was taken by Camille Cosby in the New York house. Mrs. Cosby, as you can see, he's healthy. No more bad, as he always say. I think when he talked to you and your parents some months ago, I got him on the phone with you guys. He talked about how he's getting a food transfusion, and
Right.
so yeah, so it's no more bad stuff we get to sneak to him anymore. She controls everything. So yeah, she's at the helm of everything, and just stay tuned. You're gonna see some really big things come your way.
Will do. Just some other things too. Shout out to all the people in the chat. How the media treated Mrs. Cosby is wrong and uncalled for. Yeah. Well, how they treated black people in general is uncalled for, I would say. But the Cosbys in particular, yes. But I do want to show everybody this because I want to tie this in. Now, this is Michael Avenatti. I was talking about Gloria Allred, but Michael Avenatti basically is the male version of Gloria Allred. And he was involved in the R. Kelly thing too. He was representing some of the accusers, and apparently he reportedly even had videos of some if I'm not mistaken, of some child pornography alleged that was involved in R. Kelly. Now, what's interesting about him is that Avenatti has been convicted of extortion and embezzlement. Remember, he was convicted for extorting the shoe company Nike
Right.
for $25 million in federal court, by the way, Southern District of New York. And he also has been accused of embezzling from funds from Stormy Daniels. As you know, Stormy Daniels was involved with the whole Donald Trump thing. She was involved in some legal dispute with him and his attorney, Michael Cohen, by alleging that they had an affair. That's Stormy Daniels. But Avenatti represented her. So what's happened now is that as of today, because of he was found guilty for stealing book proceeds from his former client, Stormy Daniels, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison as of June of this year. So he was involved in this thing with R. Kelly as well. Now, I'm bringing all this up now today, and I wanted to get Andrew's take on this, is what's happening with this young man right here. Let me share this with you all. his image. Now, y'all have seen me talk about this, and I'm gonna keep talking about it. But what has happened with DeShaun Watson? Because DeShaun Watson had 20-something accusers, masseuse therapists. Although from what I've heard, some of them weren't even licensed. But I'm just telling what I've heard. I don't know for a fact all of the stuff in the case, so I don't like to throw out and say for certainty. But what I do know is that DeShaun Watson has never been convicted. DeShaun Watson was never arrested. DeShaun Watson, a grand jury declined to indict him twice. And you see articles, for instance, just look at this: DeShaun Watson's behavior and the dangerous perception that massage is foreplay for sex. Now, I want you to look at that, and then I want to comment in also with the articles from Mike Florio. I've been very critical of him because Mike Florio has been adamant and basically been bashing DeShaun Watson since this whole thing started. Most of them have. And you see here, DeShaun Watson's mixed signals should give the NFL concern. Now, he wrote this on, I hate when these ad blockers come up. Now, he wrote this back on August 18th. And he's also written several articles. But you see here, he says, in one breath, the Browns quarterback DeShaun Watson expresses contrition and desire to accept the accountability for the behavior that resulted in an 11-game suspension and a $5 million fine. In the next breath, he declares his innocence. And the NFL, he was actually suspended for 6 games.
Right.
And then the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, wanted to file an appeal, essentially saying, no, his penalty should be stiffer because he found his behavior abhorrent. And it's important to note that she called this, Judge Sue Robinson, nonviolent sexual assault. She said his conduct was egregious and predatory, but we must remember that the burden of proof, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, is not done in the NFL. I get that. The NFL has its preponderance of the evidence when it comes to the bargaining agreement that they have with the players. So you could have somebody accuse you of something and you could be exonerated in court, but the commissioner, just because it's a publicity thing, he doesn't want to be in. He wants to set an example. They will do that. They did it with.
But the commissioner becomes the executioner. In the
judge, jury, and execution.
Right. Judge, jury, and executioner. So the commissioner now, the NFL, because of these contracts and these guys sign, they basically have all the power. But we also forget about the owners. There was an NFL team owner who got caught going out of a massage parlor, and that was swiped under the rug.
That was Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots.
Right. So,
and he had the nerve to open his mouth talking about it being a joke, the suspense. Man, you got caught trying to get a happy ending out in Florida.
Exactly. But it just shows that this world that we live in, there is a divide. Accountability and responsibility only is required by a certain race, and then the backlash that they bring to us, the white people don't get the same backlash. DeShaun, I heard one reporter say, well, there were 24 women that came forward. That has to mean something. See, it's all about the number, but what were there? Did they go get a rape kit done? Did they go and report this to anyone? DeShaun problem is that he was living on Instagram and social media, contacting these women, and he should have known better. But I always said that these young black men are thrusted into this form of wealth in the spotlight, but they don't have the same protection as the white athletes. Their agents are not protecting them. Their managers are not protecting them. In most cases, they bring their homeboys who have no experience along because they were with them through the whole triumph of their career.
Sure.
And I think that's DeShaun's, I think that has been DeShaun's problem. But, DeShaun, to me, I think they wanted just to drag him. And Roger Goodell has shown us how he feels about black men, especially black quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think if DeShaun was playing any other position, we would be seeing, this
Right.
height of
Well,
story.
he
Okay?
wanted a trade from the Texans,
And
and
see, when you start wanting to trade and you start wanting to control your own money, I don't care if you're in music, I don't care if you're in sports, any form of entertainment where a black person wants
Right.
to be traded out or wants to own the rights to their body of work or own themselves, that's when the plantation owner comes forward and say, I got something on you. And
Right.
that's what they did to DeShaun.
just like they did with Doc when he tried to buy NBC,
They did it with Michael Jackson.
when he
When
bought the Beatles. Yeah,
Jackson got the Beatles catalog. They did it with him. They did it with Robert Kelly when Robert Kelly realized that, they had been taking his body of work and his compilation and he wanted it back and he wanted the money that he had lost from it. Anytime you try to own you, anytime you try to own you become a problem. And then they parade the new form now. And it was not a new form. If you go back all the way, one of my favorite books, well, my favorite book and my favorite movie is To Kill a Mockingbird. They have always used white women and sex to destroy us.
right.
That's the formula. That's why I say history is not repeating itself.
Okay, if you
To destroy the black man, white women and sex.
Right. I would point out something. I'm gonna play this video in a second, but I also want to point out too. A lot of people don't know this too, Andrew. With regards to Michael Jackson, I mentioned with the Beatles and Elvis's catalog, he also was trying to acquire at one point Marvel Comics in the 90s with Stan Lee. There are articles about it. And that's when that first accusation with the Chandler boys started. And it turned out that his father wanted to be a screenwriter. And
Right.
his father was Evan Chandler. He ended up writing the screenplay for Robin Hood Men in Tights with Mel Brooks.
Right.
And he also tried in 2002, a lot of people don't know this one. He wanted to, and there's a voice message of him talking about trying to buy Universal Studios. So if you have someone who's already has an asset that's worth $4.8 billion as that catalog, not to mention owning his own catalog, because he had his publishing catalog and he owned half of Sony's publishing.
Correct.
If he had owned, just think of this, if he had owned Marvel Comics and he had owned Universal Studios, the rights to E.T., Jaws,
Right. Mhm.
Back to the Future, just those movies alone he would have been, just if he owned that alone, he would have been a billionaire on that. So
And
Mike,
I just did think about it. Also, it filters over into the future because if he would have still been alive or even not alive, his estate would have gotten Black Panther.
yeah, oh yeah,
So I'm just saying, they see that's the problem. We're in a game that we didn't create. They created this whole entertainment world, and that's why they're so angry with Bill Cosby, and that's why it's so much hatred towards me, because why I was able to get Mr. Cosby out of a lot of this stuff is because Mr. Cosby beat them at their own game. Michael was beating them at their own game. Robert Sylvester Kelly woke up. Although he has a 71 IQ, he started realizing what was happening to him and happening to his body of work and his catalog. When you open your eyes and beat them at their own game, that's when you become a problem. Look, they made the same example out of Diddy. When Diddy, people forget, when Sean Combs slapped that Jewish man, that's when they brought up all his problems started coming about.
I don't remember that one.
He slapped a Jewish man, record executive in New York City.
This
And
was in the 90s?
in the 90s, and that's when they came. He was dating J-Lo, and that's
Okay.
when they came after Combs and stuff like that and tried to take him down. That was the message sent to him. You don't get away with this kind of stuff. And what did DeShaun Combs have to do? Leave New York and move to Malibu somewhere, where he's living. Look what they did to Russell Simmons. They made Russell Simmons, his own attorney said, hey, you got to sell everything. You got to sell your penthouses, all your property, your businesses. And they went behind his back and bought it for dirt cheap. And he gave up his citizenship to move to Bali.
Right.
When they see they're not going to let black men today slip through the cracks like a Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby became the example of how to conquer and control the entertainment industry. And that became a problem. He showed I ran into a guy in LA. I was in a cigar bar in West Hollywood. It's called Cuban Seed. And this white guy was sitting there, and we were smoking, and he recognized me, and he heard me talking to Mr. Cosby also on the phone. He said, that's Bill Cosby? He said, oh my God. He just went ballistic. He said, you don't understand. Him and my dad, this guy named is Michael Sutton. Look him up. He was an actor on General Hospital. He played the first AIDS patient on TV, person infected by AIDS. He said, Bill Cosby and my dad had a record label together with Elton John on their label. And my dad represented Bill Cosby. And he said Bill Cosby was in my mom and dad's wedding, a Jewish wedding. I got Mr. Cosby on the phone. They talked. And he was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is you. I remember you as a kid. He said, and this guy now also is a real estate agent in Beverly Hills and West Hollywood. He said, do you know that Bill Cosby was probably in that era, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the greatest real estate broker in the entertainment industry? I didn't know that. He said, this guy sold houses to the Japanese embassy. He would buy all this real estate up and sell it and redo the houses and sell it for millions and millions and millions of dollars in the 60s and 70s. When you learn their game, Gavin, and when you're educated on how they make their money and how they use their money to buy real estate and buy land and all this stuff, and you figure that out, the artwork and the music, you become a threat. Yeah. And that's what Bill Cosby opened up this way of thinking for people like Michael Jackson, open way of this way of thinking for people like Oprah. He was the one that taught Oprah how to manage her money in her checkbook.
Right.
He opened up this door for people like Michael Jordan who are accumulating all of this wealth. LeBron James. This is the Bill Cosby formula. That's why he always say to me every day, even today, he said, Andrew, they can't stop coming after me because they started with me. And Andrew Wyatt didn't allow them to win. And that's what it's all about. They haven't been able to stop it. DeShaun Watson, we talk about DeShaun Watson often. And he said, look, DeShaun Watson has now, what he has to do is get on that football field and prove them wrong. Because at the end of the day, the Browns want to win. The NFL wants to win because they're going to make money off of him. And Roger Goodell is going to soon forget when DeShaun Watson starts throwing touchdowns. And if he wins a championship, all of it goes away. Because it's about money.
Right. It's about money. And
it's about money.
And
about how much money you can make for them.
That's right. And this video is going to show exactly, gives a hint. I'm going to play I played it Thursday. So everybody who watched it.
I want to add before you play that, when Mr. Cosby was trying to buy NBC, he was trying to buy the Cleveland Browns too at the same time.
Right. You've told us that too. Yeah. I know about that.
We're talking about the Cleveland Browns and DeShaun Watson. Bill Cosby tried to buy them.
because eventually the owner of the Cleveland Browns, Art Modell, moved it to Baltimore, which became the Baltimore Ravens, and then
Right. Right.
a couple of years later, some owners created the Browns franchise again.
Right.
But I want to play this clip because this gives a hint. When you talk about money, it is about money, because you're going to see the owners of the Cleveland Browns and the general managers. This is the Haslam family that owns the Browns, and Andrew Berry is the GM. And you got to listen very carefully to what the wife, what D. Haslam, is going to say.
Correct.
It gives a hint. So you already saw this.
I've seen this. Go ahead. I know the whole story. I know what it's about. It's about the money.
Right. Just listen.
Brief comments, and then we'll take questions.
I think we said from the outset that it was really important for the Cleveland Browns to honor the agreement between the Players Association and the NFL, and to, no matter what the outcome is or was, to respect that. And so we're going to do that. And we're not going to comment on anything Judge Sue Robinson said or her decision, nor are we going to comment on anything Commissioner Goodell said, because we don't think that's appropriate. At the same time, I think we as an organization realize how sensitive this is, how emotional it is to all kinds of different people, how a lot of people have been affected by this situation, and we take that very seriously. Since DeShaun came into our building in April, he has done everything we have asked of him and more. And he has been the person, the leader that we expected him to be. I think he understands where he is in his life. It's a pivotal point, and we as an organization are going to do everything we can to help him not only be the best football player he can be, but more importantly, to be the best person he can be. And we're going to support him in every way possible during the suspension and during what will hopefully be a long career with the Cleveland Browns. I also think it's important to remember that we've got a lot of other really good football players that are going to practice today at 2:00 against the Eagles. Today and tomorrow play an exhibition game, and in about 2.5 weeks kick it off against Carolina. And we have a talented team. We have confidence in Jacoby Brissett, and we're looking forward to going forward. Jimmy, so with that, we'll take some questions.
Right.
Do you want to say anything?
Yes, I'm sorry. I just want to say that we have, as an organization, and as individuals, we have tremendous empathy for the women involved. And we have an opportunity now to make a difference in this community. We're going to invest $1 million to go towards educating youth for awareness of sexual misconduct. So we're going to work really hard on prevention, and we're looking forward to getting involved and getting started on that.
Jimmy,
Hey,
I didn't play the whole thing.
right.
I played a clip because D. Haslam just gave you a hint about what this is all about. Now, I talked about these statistics, and most people may or may not know this, but the biggest consumers of any product, Andrew, are women.
Right.
Buying, shopping, anything. And right now, as of 2013, I saw the stats, about 44% of women buy the NFL's products. So the jerseys, the hats, and so forth, a lot of women are buying it. They've become frequent buyers and supporters of the NFL, versus, although men are still currently the biggest obviously the biggest fans in the NFL, that fan base for females has increased. And the NFL is watching this thing. So remember what happened with Ray Rice. When Ray Rice got kicked out of the league in 2014 for getting an altercation with his then fiance, now wife.
Mm.
Remember, he actually came out and told the NFL, yes, this is what happened. It wasn't like he hid what he had done. They just never had the video inside the elevator to see it, but he admitted, yes, we got into a fight. Yes, I struck her. I'm sorry. And why he was not, and it went to court. He did what's called pretrial intervention, which they will offer to people if they're a first-time offender, which he is. So you complete courses, you stay out of trouble, you don't get in trouble with the law anymore, don't have any more crimes committed, you avoid drinking, you avoid drugs, you submit to random drug testing after a few months, and you pay all of these fees for these classes, your case will get dismissed. So people were upset about that even then. and the fact that he only got 2 games. Well, then when the video came out, the Ravens suspended him indefinitely. They cut him actually. He
Right.
was cut. And you had the NFL making these and doing these commercials about women's rights, what not to do, how they handle this. The National Organization for Women coming out against the NFL, and we know that they had the tape. Actually, they actually had the tape of Ray Rice beforehand, and Deion Sanders brought this up, which was interesting. He was on Ricky Smiley's show, and he stated he found the timing of it being leaked by TMZ interesting because they put it out on that Monday when the NFL, which was the biggest press day in the NFL, when they start the preseasons.
Mhm.
That's their biggest day. So tying it all in with DeShaun Watson is that now we have the league starting up. It's preseason now. That he got one of the largest contracts of any NFL quarterback with $237 million worth, and I believe he's actually due to get 90 million guaranteed, and he or more than at this point. And now he's sitting out for 11 games. But this was done, I believe, to appease the female base, especially because the NFL has started charities with these groups and so forth, and giving monies to them. But my problem, and I see this, and this comes up, is where is Roger Goodell? Why is this outrage for DeShaun Watson? Where's the outrage for Chad Wheeler, who beat the crap out of his woman, this white boy that beat up a black woman at that?
Mhm.
You had this punter, I believe, for New York Giants, who was accused of abuse, domestic assault. No one came out at him. And ESPN in particular has just been disgraceful with their coverage of this, as well as most media outlets I find, because and here's the thing, they're not attorneys.
Right.
They're pundits, and they come out and say stuff like Stephen A. Smith or Shannon Sharp, or they usually have a female moderator that's there. And of course, she's going to talk from a perspective that's more sympathetic to the accusers. But here's the thing. DeShaun Watson is still innocent by law. If he wants to maintain his innocence, which any attorney will tell you because he still has one pending civil case, that's his right to do so.
Right.
So, but
Well, it goes back to, look, Stephen A. Smith and all Shannon Sharp and all these people out here, these pundits, you got to always remember one thing. They don't own the rights to anything. They don't own the rights to their voice, their thoughts, their ideas, their principles or beliefs. They're owned by the oppressor. And the oppressor is ESPN, who tells them, all right, go out here, Stephen A. Smith, and make a fool out of yourself. Go act like a clown. Go say the worst things that don't even make sense, because that's going to generate sponsors. It's the same thing that they tell Charles Barkley. Just go say the worst salacious things out here in the world, and it's going to make people like you and find that you're funny. And I remember when they had Barkley on some show and they asked him to spell wood, and he could not spell wood. And I think he wanted to spell
that's a hard word for me, Andrew. That's a hard word for Charles Barkley.
I know, but
some way I can spell that because they give me money to do that, Ernie.
right, like you sound just like it. So,
I do him and I do Shannon Sharp because Skip, I'm gonna get my restitution.
Right. But look, man, when these guys are put out there to destroy their own, they cannot destroy the white people. They're not paid to destroy the white people. And when they're destroying the white people, you see the white NFL player who beat the black woman, he's going to always get a pass because they're saying, okay, you don't get to reprimand us. You only get to reprimand your own, and we get to reprimand you. And that's the name of the game. And I think this should be a very teachable moment for DeShaun, because I think he's handled it very well. I think DeShaun just needs somebody to stand by him who's going to also talk about all the good he's done, all of the community good he's done, all the good he has done for women, all of the good that he continues to do for women, and these women who took part in these acts, these 24 women, why aren't they being held accountable? Why can't they take responsibility? I do believe, some people was touching back. It wasn't him just touching. Some people were kicking back.
One lady said he jizzed off on her arm, and I'm like, how long did you stay there when he was?
Exactly. So I'm just
What?
saying. You mean to tell me you're so paralysis come into play, and you don't just run out the room? They make it seem like these black guys, and they have always made us seem that way, that we're so scary that when women come in contact with us, they just automatically have to give in. They can't move. They become lethargic. They can't speak. They can't say no. But you sit in a room and let a man ejaculate on you, and you just watch it happen. And I'm just saying, I know people who just know how to leave the room. I know people, I've talked to people who are massage therapists and work at massage parlors, and it was like, it's not uncommon for, if you're giving a woman to get a massage, I've had and seen women, just people who I know who are massage therapists, women have orgasms on the table. You just leave the room, because you're touching their body, and it's a stranger touching their body in a very seductive way. You're doing it's therapeutic, but you're doing it in a seductive way. You got the mood has already been set when you enter the room. You got candles, you got aromatic smell in the room, you got nice soft music playing. So the room is already set up to get you in the mood. So of course you're gonna get a happy ending. They said guys get the blood start flowing and massage them, and they get an erection. You just leave the room. Or you put a towel on, you have a towel on top of them, but until the erection, it's the way to leave the room. And these women knew who he was, and they saw an opportunity. And DeShaun had, look, I get it. You thinking that because of who you are and there's an agreement and they know the situation that, you're in a safe place. People have to understand, and guys today, especially guys with success and money, you must understand that the rules have changed. The rules have changed. The way you date a woman today has changed. The way you be with a woman sexually today has changed. Until you accept and put in your repertoire that I can't do this anymore that I used to do. If I see a woman overly intoxicated, I get her back to her car. I make sure there are witnesses to see me get her back to her car.
Right.
And I don't take her home. Okay, I don't take her on a long joyride home. When you are in those situations, you get an Uber, the rules, the game has changed on how you date. And we have to accept that. You have women today who are not acknowledging that they get into these relationships with guys knowing that they have sexual trauma. And a lot of women who have sexual trauma don't want to get help because that keeps them becoming a victim. And as long as I can become a victim, I can extort somebody for something. So, and there's a lot of trauma. I hear sexual trauma with guys out here, but we're just talking about women. But I think women have to be responsible and accountable. And we have to always understand that media has the ability, mainstream media, to increase the frequency. But just because the frequency has been increased and the sheer volume of numbers have been increased doesn't mean that it's true.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have to look at. And I wish DeShaun Watson the best. Like I wish so many of these guys the best. I get emails and text messages and people on social media. Hey, you need to talk to DeShaun Watson. You need to be working with him. I don't chase those things. I know my value.
Yes,
And
I was a lawyer too.
yeah, and I know my value and I know what I bring to the table. And I know that, we have the formula. I have the formula because the person was tried with and we prevailed and we beat them at that game was through Bill Cosby. And the formula does exist. It's just you got to have the right person administering the formula. It's like the same, you got to have the right person giving you a shot. You're not just gonna, you go to the doctor, you got to have the right person administering the antibiotics in your system, or giving you the anesthesia. You just don't go to Joe Blow to give you the anesthesia. It has to be the right person. And so, my numbers out here, they know me. I don't go out here chasing anything. If it's meant for me, it's meant for me. But my goal will always be until I leave this earth is to be that voice for Black America and help salvage what society is trying to encourage our Black women to destroy our Black men and to prevent our Black men from destroying themselves. Just giving them the facts.
Most definitely.
Right.
And I always appreciate you coming on here, Andrew.
Thank-
Second time, don't make it your last, please. Come back.
It won't ever be my last, man. And I appreciate you for having me on, Gavin, and for what you do. And I just want to encourage people, please donate to this show. Please support this show. I will find a way to get a donation to you as well. I don't do Cash App, but I will get something to you, Gavin.
We have the PayPal, which the
Oh, PayPal. I'm good with PayPal. My daughter, she laughs at me and she was like, Dad, you don't know. I just turned 49 on August 3rd. And she was like, you don't know nothing about technology. So I don't know anything about social media, or anything. So, but I want to definitely encourage people to please support your show. Please support the young Dennis who we just had on. Support what he's doing, please. Because he's needed. And he's needed with his voice in the hip hop community. And any way I can help lend my voice and my support to get his messaging out, I want to. And whatever I can do, I would love to get on live with him. Gavin, if you do something live with him doing this trial with Robert Kelly, where we could talk about, and let's do something live outside the courthouse. On the steps of the courthouse. Let's do something. I think it would be powerful to do something together, and let's bring people into that forum to help make some things work. So I'm available. Just get with me give me some time because I am traveling and I'm working on a lot of projects. But definitely, I think we have to talk about Robert Kelly while we're in the moment. We have to talk about Robert Kelly while it's going on, while we have the attention of mainstream media to talk about what they need to be doing. And I know Jennifer hates the media, and she's just not her style. It's not her forte to do interviews. That's why, that's why she always tells me, she was like, Andrew.
She did do, I'm sorry, I got to tell you, she did do one interview I saw her do with Black News Channel.
Right.
And this woman, Yodit Tudwell, was interviewing her, and I could tell Yodit, who's a criminal defense lawyer herself, was pro-prosecution of R. Kelly.
Right.
And Jennifer was schooling her and and everyone else about why we have due process, why we have laws in this country that say presumption of innocence. So, but yeah, I understand why anybody would want to be on media because they distort what you're going to say. And
so it's hard. It's hard, as Jennifer said to me. It's hard she could represent in the courtroom. It's hard for her to tell a Black person's story being a white woman. She doesn't know how to tell that story, and she doesn't know that plight. She tries, and she does a great job of doing it in the courtroom. She does an excellent job. But Robert has to have his story told. People have to know his plights. They have to know his trauma. And if you don't know those things, people don't. You got to create the empathy and sympathy for who he is and what he's gone through as a boy up until a man, and tell his story. And that's what I encourage the people around him to do. But it has to be the right person who can tell his story, who has a consciousness about themselves, and it's not about money or fame. When you got the wrong people looking at money and fame, your story is going to be distorted, and the media is going to take that on and distort it. I have been reached out by all major mainstream networks asking me not to even touch Robert Kelly. Friends of mine, with you name it, every major network out here has reached out to me begging me not to even get involved, and don't help him, don't even lend my voice to him anymore. And as I told them, it's hard for me to sit back and watch the assassination of a black person, especially a black man, and the assassination attempt with how they reconstructed the laws. And because if I allow that to happen, then it can happen to me, it can happen to my nephews, it can happen to family, friends, or other black men out here. That's why we have to speak out about it. We can't. I would encourage everybody. The problem that they're doing is the people who are trying to speak out, they're making it about Robert. You have to make it bigger than Robert. It's not about Robert. It's about black men in this country and black boys in this country. Because once they figure out how to do black men in, they're going to go down to black boys. They're going to get them while they're in high school and they're great athletes or great dancers or entertainers or actors. They're going to get them while they're young so they can destroy their careers before anything take off, before they generate any wealth for themselves. That's what this is all about. It's about money. It's about wealth. And if we could create this formula now against men, we now got the formula against young black boys, teenage boys, to destroy them before their careers ever take off. And we get to control the system. And that's what it's all about. And we have to destroy this formula before it becomes so fluid that it's out of control, and we're reliving the 60s and the 40s and the 1800s all over again in the 1700s. And that's what's about to happen. So, Gavin, thank you so much for having me on, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I just put Andrew's social media tag from Instagram in. His Instagram is Andrew V. Wyatt. Ladies and gentlemen, please go there, subscribe, support our brother when he has posts, support all the new black, I call it new black media, because old Vanguard has died out, and they have sold out. But channels like mine, channels like Nicole from Nicole's View, Harvey Superboy, Sean James, and I don't know if you know Sean, but I sent you the video Sean did because
I would love to do something with Sean. Look, I've done stuff with Nicole. I think we have to, one thing I'm learning that they're working in the media game. I worked for the mainstream media, ABC and Fox, and I started in my early 20s, and did a lot of great things and a lot of successes in the business. But one thing I learned is that, the only way you guys stay relevant is people like me and people who have that influence and that platform to lend our voices to your shows. So anytime I can help lend my voice to a show to talk about, especially when trials like these are fluid, because you guys don't have the funds or resources to go travel to Chicago and be there. And they know that, and they understand it. So that's how they limit you. They know that if you guys had the funds and resources to just be on the ground for one day doing a trial of a black man, successful black man on trial, they know it would generate too much influence. And that's why I love what Dennis is doing. He's using his own funds and dime to be there, because that's his livelihood, but that's also his gateway to the truth and the facts, to bring the truth and the facts to Black America. So sometimes we have to sacrifice. I sacrifice all the time. I generate my own funds. You have been on shows with me where I made donations to certain shows, because I understand it's not about me. And I don't like to be out here just talking the talk. I like to also put my financial resources behind shows when I can. I've done it for Tariq's show. I've done it for Nicole's show. I've done it for Kara Dangerous show. I've done it for Ron's show. You know, I did it for Judge Joe Brown's show with Valerie. You know, doing it for your show. These are funds that I don't ask for anything back from you, and I'm not doing it because you have me on. I understand this business, and I know and breathe. I live this business. This is my life. This is my livelihood. I know the media business better than a lot of people out here who do public relations and crisis management. The majority of people out here that do public relations, their firms have been handed down from families who are in the entertainment world. Nothing was handed to me. I created my firm in 2007 while I left Fox. So, because I saw what society and media was formulated and how social media was going to come about eventually and destroy the fabric of Black America. And they have done that. And so, you know, I appreciate you, and we will talk soon, Gavin.
All right. Thank you, Brother Andrew. Please support him, and I'll send you Dennis's information so you can.
Send me the PayPal thing for you. Text it to me, and then I'll go on and get that done, okay, today.
All right. I appreciate it, brother. And
man, thank you.
Thank you. This was a great live stream. I appreciate it. You know, I would also ask, ladies and gentlemen, another way to support me. Please buy The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr. on Kindle. You heard Andrew Wyatt, Bill Cosby's PR person himself, said he read my book. He and I don't know if Dr. Cosby, I know Dr. Cosby's blind, but I'm sure he told him, he said, you did a fabulous job. Y'all heard it, but y'all heard it here. Y'all need to go and buy this book, y'all. Y'all need to go buy it. 2 years, it's hard work in putting this thing together. I know some of you are waiting for the hard copy edition. I've had some issues, but if you can download it to your phone, buy it on your phone, because it's right there and you can read it. Everybody carries a phone now. Everybody carries a cell phone. So do that. Another thing you can do, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support, if you family, y'all are in the New Orleans area next week, I'm putting it out right now. This is my Instagram page. We have the Get Your Laugh On at the Well. Yours truly is hosting this dynamic show, my production company. We have Terry Scott, Brandon Haynes, Kyron Hargrove, and Chubu. These comics are going to rock the house, and the headliner is going to be even better, Mr. Mark Caesar. He's going to bring the house down. Mark Caesar is a traveling comedian. He's with the team Piss Your Pants. He's going to literally make you piss your pants laughing, but so are the other comedians. So y'all need to come out. Get your tickets on eventbrite.com right now. Eventbrite.com. Go there right now and get tickets. Buy them early, $15 right now, because when you pay at the door, there's going to be $20, which is cool with me. It means more money. I'm not against that. But if you want to save some time, you want to buy some tickets now, go ahead and do it. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the Louisiana area, if you're in New Orleans, going to be there, come out and support your boy. The other thing I want to tell you about, of course, we have our Creole seasoning blend. That's right, NornisCreoleBlends.com. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nornis goes great with every dish. Please purchase those. By the way, Derek Bailey, my brother, I have yours coming soon to you. You should get it by tomorrow. I want to shout out everybody that's been with us. We've had several people who have been sharing this video, from Willie Lynch to John Hancock. Brother Willie Lynch, who's outstanding, who's a comedian, I know. He's also a health guru. Dante Salters, shout out to Dante. Shout out to Nikki Ivory. She's always supporting us with the B1E Book Club. But yeah, shout out to all of y'all. But please, yeah, go to NornisCreoleBlends.com, buy some seasoning. We're going to try, especially in the New Orleans area. Did y'all see that they're going to have the Fried Chicken Festival coming up in October? But what's interesting is they're going to start charging people to get in. So I'm hoping to get a vendorship with Nani's, probably at the Fried Chicken Festival. I'm looking into doing that. My family and I, we've been talking a little bit about it. Yeah, Nani's is the bomb. Indeed it is. And I'll send you the tracking on that too, Derek. Yeah, please get the book. Of course, you can donate to the Cash App. We had been on for so long, I didn't even bother to take calls, but I knew Andrew was busy. So I'm going to take calls probably a little bit on our next show. You know, I had a very difficult morning today. brothers and sisters, I'll share with y'all. My cousin Desmond had passed away. I learned earlier this morning, and I just want to just say first and foremost to him, rest in power, blood. I miss you, and shout out to his family, his son, Lil Des, and his mother and father, uh, Greg and Mary, and his brother Eldridge. Uh, I'm praying for y'all. I love y'all. But I was just thinking of my cousin a couple of days ago. I was going to call him, and I didn't get a chance to. Now, never will. But uh, I've still have good thoughts about him. He was a party guy, so he was young, but I still think of good times with him. But I want to spend rest in power to him. Great brother, and he would come actually to a couple of my comedy shows, and he was actually surprised I was doing comedy because everybody knew I was quiet. They always know me as a quiet person, but Des was Des had come out. So shout out to him. We ain't gonna make this sad. We're gonna celebrate his life. So shout out to the brother and his family. Des, I love you. And I'm just put his picture up right here, right quick. You can't see him with the light, with the no lighting and stuff, but that's Des. But rest in peace, my brother. All right. The other thing I can say too, ladies and gentlemen, Tuesday we'll have a show. I don't know what the topics will exactly be about, but it'll be something. There are some things I would like to bring up, particular, especially I want to talk and do a video about this woman, this fired CPS worker that told this girl to be a hoe, encouraged her hoeing. I want to do a video about that. Danielle asked, "How can you find me on Rumble?" My Rumble, I'm subscribed to Rumble as GRich2786, but I put the link in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, to Rumble, where you can go and look at the video that I had there. Thank you all for your condolences. They're well appreciated. Greatly appreciated. Thank you all. Next, finally, I want y'all to go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, and play these two tracks. So this is how I'm gonna remember this, because with some music, because I know my brother was into music. So of course I told y'all you can join the Patreon. You can also advertise with our channel, Gavin.Jewish1@gmail.com. But our songs, Video Soul, which is available on Spotify, Amazon, and iTunes. I'd prefer if you go to iTunes and buy these, as well as Gotta Get On Up. I'm working on new music right now as we speak, for real. I have not forgotten. I know a lot of people have waited on me about the Cosby, my analysis of we need to talk about Cosby. I just have not had a chance to because I've been in court all week. I'm going to be in court all next week, rather, and just life hitting me. But I'm dedicated. I have not forgotten. As I know, I say something, and sometimes it doesn't happen soon enough. But you be patient with me. I will have that dropping for you all. So in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on and get on up out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to dance this out. This is for you, Des. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Since we have gotten on down, it's now time to get on up. Let's do it.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, cause on the dance floor is where we'll meet. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the. Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide or two. Hit the bus stop or do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Now 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you breathe and you achieve. And so if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll feel the groove. Get on the floor. Get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, it's time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up, baby. Yeah, gotta get on up. Come on, baby, gotta get on up, baby. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up.